Hi, this is Alvin Kwock. I'm the co-founder of OneDegree.
My name is Cindy. I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of Sunday.
Hi, my name is Harshet Lunani, and I'm the founder of Qoala.
I'm Kazy Hata. I'm founding CEO of the Justincase Group.
Hi, I'm Rob Schimek. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of bolttech.
Hi, my name is Roopa Malhotra, and I'm Head of Customer and Digital at Zurich Asia Pacific.
My name is Skye Theodorou. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Upcover.
Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome to the 200th, I said it, Teresa, 200th anniversary episode. I cannot believe we did this. Did you think when we first started we were going to get to 200?
Well, I definitely had big hopes for the Asia InsurTech Podcast, but 200 is, literally insane. And, fun fact, it is even more than 200 because 200 is just the, regular Monday episodes where we talk to our amazing guests, the ones we heard at the beginning. And also another fun fact, if you are listening to this on Spotify, you should actually head over to the Asia InsurTech Podcast.com because this is actually a video cast. We recorded this cool video with a lot of our industry friends. And so 200th episode, but on top of that, we also have our monthly news roundup. So that actually takes us to a count of what, 250, 260 episodes?
Yeah, it's a lot. Almost 250, 260 almost. Yeah. And that means that we're almost closer to 300 than we are to 200. In this case, we went back to some of our really good friends in the industry, particularly at the beginning of the InsurTech space. They've all introduced themselves by name. Definitely go and watch the video. And we actually asked them to back up a little bit and say, what was the original idea? Why did you start this? In the interim between then and now, what's changed? And then from here on in, where are you headed? Where's the market headed? These are the things that we wanted to cover with everybody.
Yeah, so let's hear how they all started.
OneDegree was founded back in 2016. At the time, I would used to be in the finance investment banker by training, and at the time I helped build the direct market assets, basically meaning going from telephone broking to a lot of different features like high frequency trading and all that. But in 2015, my mom was in late stage, and I really have gone through the entire insurance experience at the time when of course, when you lost your loved ones and how to go about it. And what I really see was that insurance, unfortunately, was easily 15, 20 years behind the curve when it comes to technology adoption. And there's so many good use cases, but that wasn't really been adopted.
The foundation of the setup of the company is almost close to 6 years, so December 6th of the 2016. So getting to the 6th anniversary. The original idea was definitely like Lemonade, like 2C insurance carrier.
Sunday was founded in 2017. The original idea is that we wanted to be a digital insurance company. So imagine 20 years in the future, if there are any new challenger brands that are out there in the market, how would they look like for the new generation? And therefore, Sunday, we want to be the top of mind, a digital insurer to look after your healthcare and also your motor transportation.
We founded Qoala in 2018. The idea behind it was to increase insurance penetration in Southeast Asia. When we started, we wanted to solve for two problems to in more penetration. First among them was how do we make insurance more familiar to customers? And we believe agents and brokers will have a large role to play for insurance penetration to rise. And how do we digitize them and enable them to be much more transparent, fair, efficient was our goal.
I founded it very nicely on the 1st of January 2019. It was the year I was turning 30. It was kind of like a now or never type thing. And it took me quite a few months to think of the name. And I finally thought of the name.
So where did you come up with the name?
Oh, How long do you want to take?
Go for it.
I wanted the business to be about insurance, but not mention any negative words, negative connotations at all. And insurance is a very negative connotation, I think, in a lot of people's view. One of the things that my dad said to me was, when you fall down and something bad happens, you dust yourself off, you put your hat back on, and you get up and you keep walking forward. And it just really stuck with me that up is a really cool word.
It is
really positive. And I did want to pay homage to my dad a little bit too. So my dad's name is Panos, which is also Pano, which can mean up as well.
I love it.
And yes, I've actually never told this story. And yeah, I just thought Upcover just sounded really positive, and it sounded about getting cover. And if you look at the word, the etymology of up, it's amazing. It's just great. So yeah, that's where Upcover was born.
I had just had a 12-year tour of duty at one of the world's largest balance sheet insurance companies. And one of the things I walked away with was saying I wanted an opportunity to work not in a balance sheet heavy way, but a balance sheet light way. And that's because really the ability to grow in any market conditions can present yourself when you're balance sheet light. But when you're balance sheet heavy, it's very important to maintain the discipline. Shrink when you need to shrink, grow when you need to grow. But I wanted to be a true insurtech that would grow under just about any market conditions, yet still have some opportunity to put skin in the game and to take risk, but on a much more limited basis, and make our primary emphasis distribution.
It's so great to hear these stories again, how these companies started. And it almost feels like we grew up together, like, around the same time when we started with the Asia InsurTech Podcast, and going back and hear how these companies have set up and, why in the first place they started their own InsurTechs.
Yeah, you're right. I do. In a way, I feel like we've developed along with them. And the best thing about telling these stories is not just the beginning of the why, but the continuation of it, right? This development process. And I think one of the key things to ask them next was, what's changed since the founding? What happened between then and now that's changed, not just for you, but for the industry as well?
Yeah, let's hear about it.
Yeah, back in 2016, what I see is that most of the insurtech companies out there focus on distribution,
right?
And that is not. I think what is important is really have the full stack experience, right? And really having technology to solve a lot of different pain points. That was really where I see it as a start. I think it ended up to be right that like full stack, there's a number of them who have come up and really start to make products, manufacture products, and recreate the entire experience. I think that really has been the original thesis, and that has played out. But having said that, there's a lot of changes ever since then, in the sense that, like, for example, it was still a Web 2 as a start at the time, but the migration from Web 2 to Web 3 was a completely a watershed moment, right? I think number one. Number two, what was totally unexpected at the time was that COVID in the last 3 years has completely changed the entire consumer experience, and not only consumer experience, but also experience as an insurance company. Because to give you one example for that, in this part of the time, there has been multiple lockdowns and work from home experience that a lot of insurance companies really struggle in that work from home type of environment, in how do they fulfill the claim experience, right? So, and that lead to a massive takeoff in terms of users and revenue. Even this year, we are seeing almost double, triple type of growth for the case of this year, even still.
What do you think the implication is of the move from Web 2 to Web 3? And did that surprise you?
Well, number one, I think is that when Web 3, so blockchain has, and also cryptocurrency has been around for almost 10 years.
Yep.
Okay, but now it comes to a point of time that this is a big year, massive year of regulation. And also a massive, in the last 2 years, I think the institutional adoptions really start to take off.
Yeah.
And then what is now really important is insurance on Web3 and insurance for Web3 assets as well. To give you a couple of examples for that, it's kind of like deposit protection scheme. Not 100% the same, but in some way there's a flavor to that, without the protection against cyber hacks, how would people feel comfortable having the assets in the Web3 side, right? So like then the cold wallet, the hot wallet, and then going to smart contract protection, all those things are things that we have never seen in the past in the Web2 world. So there's so much at stake that is important to take this to mass adoption.
So let's focus in Japan, but I think that when I was there, like 2016, I was still actually working for the Munich Re Japan, and then there was almost no InsurTech. I believe at that time globally also InStech, InsurTech, which one will be the word. And then so at that time I was trying to get the license at FSA.
Right.
For the insurance underwriting license. I call them like a support desk. They were supporting fintech company or startup 6 years ago, but there was almost nobody who was in charge of insurance or InsurTech startup. So it was like that 6 years ago. Well, that's why maybe I'm here, but that was not common at that time.
And how about today?
Yeah, today, I think, let's say 3 to 4 or even 5, 6 years ago, at that time, it was changing a little bit. At the big company like Nippon Life or Tokyo Marine, like those actually, we have a 2B business as well. Those guys are our core customers now. And so I know how they changed. I think there are the good human talent were transported to digital innovation division or innovation division. So those people were transported there. So the top management thinks this InsurTech area or innovation area is the core. So therefore, if the people are talent people gather there, that's their focus is there. So I think 5 years ago, it's okay to have a POC with startup. Maybe let's say 3 years ago, but now it is not the number of POC, but now it's the quality of the project. I think that's what they have completely changed for the last 6 years.
I think it's grown quite a bit. I would say that, we emerged as a group of the first gen InsurTechs. And since then, obviously, there have been some very successful InsurTechs like, Singlife in Singapore, for example. And then, of course, now there's a generation 2 or a wave 2 of InsurTechs coming in who are doing some very interesting work as well. And alongside that, I think regulators and insurers have in particular become much more understanding of what we bring to the table as well. And I think it's allowed, InsurTechs to flourish a lot more in this region because of that understanding, and that a little bit more openness as well has emerged.
I'd say something that probably doesn't come to mind for a lot of people, but thinking about myself personally and talking about insurance in the industry just generally, and even what I do, people ask me what I do. I've got some pretty cool friends. Chefs, like, neuroscientists, really great M&A lawyers, people that you would want to have a conversation with at dinner.
Right.
And then if people would ask me what I did and I said insurance, I'd get some really weird comments back. And then also like people would definitely be like really surprised and also sad. That's what I did. You could tell this is really what they felt. And I actually think that the insurance industry is becoming from the people within the industry, it's becoming quite sexy.
Very. I think so.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's exciting, you know, like people really see the opportunity now. It is not something that people have to be explained super deeply.
Right.
Back when I started, I was having 3-hour pitch conversations, which someone could probably tell me I did that all wrong. But people were interested, but they just didn't know enough about the landscape, and it is so complicated. So we were just giving a lot of time trying to explain it to so many people, especially in Australia, where the insurtech investment is probably some of the lowest in Western countries around the world.
Okay.
So I definitely say it's become really sexy. I say there's a lot more investment, but then even more, especially from our perspective at Upcover, it's definitely changed in the last, 6 to 12 months from personal lines specific to a big focus on commercial lines and the opportunity in small to medium-sized business as well. So I'd say I'm loving it because it's just ripe for opportunity and potential and other people to kind of bring their great ideas and minds to building out new innovations, whether from a big corporate or from in a startup or both. It's a very exciting time.
So in 2017, when Sunday was founded, a lot of the insurtech landscape was primarily focused on increasing insurance penetration. As you know, in Southeast Asia and ASEAN generally, insurance penetrations against the GDP is one of the lowest globally, but that just shows that there's a lot of growth. But fast forward a few years until now, a lot of the focus is also on a better user experience around whenever you've already bought a policy from an insurance company, then how do insurers these days integrate virtual primary care within the cashless claims journey, for example. Second one would be electric vehicles. The take-up rate for electric cars in Southeast Asia is going to pick up in the next few years. Then how would insurance companies have to transform their services and adopt telematics into the premium pricing that they have?
Yeah, well, one thing, of course, is the nature of funding. Funding maybe 5 years ago wasn't so easy. Funding in the year 2021 was much easier.
Right.
And funding in the year 2022, holy smokes, that is a huge challenge. So that's one of the things, which then brings you back to it's so critically important to have a solid business model and a model where you're willing to continue to test and learn and where necessary, pivot, but also really important to have solid fundamentals. That is proving to be one of the key things that is allowing companies to succeed in 2022, despite the fact that market conditions are tough and capital is tight.
Yeah. Do you think the asset light model mirrors what's happening in other businesses as well without mentioning them? Right. In the sense that the fewer assets you have, you're right, that this ability to expand and contract is actually much easier, if that makes sense.
It is. You could actually see this in the lifestyle of individuals in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
Michael, the idea that people do the sharing economy so much. I live in Singapore. I don't own a car.
Right.
I share via Grab, and it's fantastic. And that whole world has evolved, and people understand this concept of cooperation with others. We call it sometimes coopetition.
Yeah.
Where you're going to cooperate with your competition.
Do you think that's changed as well? Because I think it's a really good point. And I don't think it's just true for the insurance industry. When you're building what you're building, right? This idea of they do something really well that we wish we did, but you know what? They're already doing it better. Let's just bring them in the fold as well. Does that make sense too?
I love that point. I mean, when I mentioned earlier that I had come out of 12 years at one of the world's largest insurance companies, one of the great things about that is you have so many resources at your fingertips,
right,
that everyone thinks that they have the ability to build anything.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is when I'm in InsurTech, for example, I've got to move much faster than that. And it is absolutely impossible for me to think about the idea of building everything myself. And so this concept of enabling others, cooperating with others, coopetition, and ecosystem and partnership, it's never been a bigger deal than it is today. And quite frankly, the pace of that is increasing really exponentially.
Do you feel like the constraints, and maybe some of them are self-imposed, but that those constraints force you at some level to be more innovative?
Yes, I think that the nature of the beast here is that innovation is sort of the outgrowth of challenges, right? So
Yeah.
they say that that adversity, is I forget the exact quote, but it
Necessity is
kind of
the mother of
drives.
invention. Yeah.
Ah, thank you, thank you. Necessity is the mother of invention. If invention, you got it. And that's really what happens here. We innovate because we must innovate in order to continue to be relevant, in order to continue to make our business model keep up with the increasing demands of the customer who's getting more sophisticated all the time, the changing landscape of competition, the changing landscape of what the world is throwing at us that we never had anticipated, whether it was a global pandemic or a global economic crisis, whatever it is. These things cause us to have to continue to iterate and to innovate.
A lot has changed since we started, Michael, and we just talked about this in our first AIP news roundup of 2023, right? That InsurTech in a way has grown up, and that we probably in 2023 gonna see quite a few changes, don't you think?
Absolutely. And look, that's another great part of this story about this evolution is not just where we came from, not just what changed in the interim, but where are we going from here? And I cannot wait to get back to these stories that these founders have told us about where they think we're going.
I think there is the DeFi insurance that has also come up in the last 2-3 years. Okay, and then there is the CeFi, which is, of course, the regulators are coming in and say, hey, this need to have the regulatory capital, this need to be regulated and different things. So what I really see coming is that there is going to be a marriage between CeFi, meaning regulated, and DeFi, meaning it's a decentralized concept, which is a very prominent one for anyone who's in the cryptocurrency, right? So what I see is in the next 2-3 years is going to be CDeFi, either regulated DeFi or insurance on blockchain.
Well, I think, well, maybe I hope is that in the very near future, hopefully, because of our support to the insurers, the data-driven insurance finally should come. Well, all of the people for the last 5 years, including me, us saying it's coming, but the reason why insurer cannot focus on such product is mainly about the legacy system because they cannot deal with such dynamic data. But now it's getting to be ready. Apple, Google, Amazon, they are interested in the personal health record system, and then data is there. Why not insurance? I would want to predict that's happening very soon in Japan.
I think a clear trend that's coming for sure is that there's more belief in the sector, and that's resulting in larger players looking at the sector more in a more deep manner. And you probably might have seen that Shopee has looking to get into the sector themselves. You'll more recently have seen that Warburg Pincus is also expressed intentions of going across the region. So I think we're seeing that trend definitely emerge. And that I think, and given it's not a winner takes all industry, we welcome that because we think that means that there's going to be much more robust players coming in. And I think you'll also see some of the insurtechs also, more startup kind of insurtechs also going into that space. That's one trend we definitely see. I think the second trend we also see is that I think consumers are demanding for a much more sophisticated product now, and they know their choices a bit better as they've interacted with insurance over the years, and the pandemic has also played a role. And so we also expect that more specialized verticals, such as maybe cancer or maybe diabetes and so on, will emerge as well.
So I'd say the sad thing again about insurance is the sad thing that people aren't expecting that, but they should be, is that from a customer experience perspective, all insurance products should be serviced as an e-commerce product, and they should have a beautiful experience and servicing. And I would say, why would that shouldn't surprise anyone, none of this should surprise people, but I'd say it's really only probably getting some attention and even investment by big insurers and even startups now. And I'd say startups that are successfully doing it and getting traction and getting the metrics to show that this is actually something that's needed. If you look at some of the biggest, most successful companies in the US, so many of them are insurance companies, and you look at their R&D investment, it's some of the lowest across the board. So changing that so that they're actually investing in experience and not, building a product from the inside and pushing it out because they think they can price risk. Really understanding the customer lens a lot more, from financial, difficulty they might be going through, customer needs that they might have, special understanding of the risks that they might be like facing day to day. I think one of the biggest things I've learned personally at Upcover is, and a hypothesis I always had, because I did a thesis on small to medium-sized businesses and emerging risk. And that was in relation to cybersecurity events and cyber risk about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I'd say the biggest thing is that small businesses aren't a big business, of course, but they do make decisions on risk and risk management every day. They don't need an insurance broker necessarily. They absolutely don't need a lawyer, and I'm both.
Right.
But they do need to be empowered, and they do need to have someone help give them the information that they need when they want to ask the question. And I think when it comes to servicing, that's where the insurance industry should absolutely get to. That's
perfect.
what we're trying to do at Upcover. Yeah.
Yeah. So for Sunday, since we launched in 2017, we have two missions. So our missions is the first one to increase penetration rates for health insurance and car insurance, especially focus on electric cars. And the second one is to create a better user experience, especially focus on those two verticals as well. So for Sunday, what we've been focused on is for the past few years, we've been going B2B because that has been the market where there is budgets and affordability when it comes to health insurance. So a lot of SMEs, corporates that want to increase talent attraction, talent recruitment. So employee benefits, health insurance is the number one benefit demanded by every employee globally, as the same as Southeast Asia. But since COVID has passed, we see an tremendous increase in the demand for health insurance as well. And the government is definitely championing the move from public to private healthcare financing. And that's where insurance companies have to come in and step in to help consumers through that journey. So going forward, Sunday, we're creating newer types of products and really marketing our digital virtual primary care services to help push and accelerate that gap in supply for retail health insurance. So the market can definitely see us having a lot more initiatives on those. The second one is, so Thailand is also one of the largest hub for electric car manufacturing.
Yeah.
So we've had the pleasure of launching with one or maybe another leading and global electric car manufacturer. So we are also going to invest a lot of innovation in creating a better experience when it comes to managing your electric car. Obviously, it's very different to a combustion gas car. So those would be two key areas that would be the key highlights for us.
I think you're going to see consolidation in the industry. I think that gets caused, of course, by the fact that funding is not so easy to come by, and many business models are great business models. However, they might not have the best fundamentals, and you've got to find a path to both. So I think there will be real consolidation. Also think there's going to continue to be great advancements in the area of data and analytics. We invest in that all the time, and I know people talk about it all the time, and maybe it starts to fall on a deaf ear because people talk about it so much, but it's really important. And it is an area where the progress is being made really fast and in a very helpful way. And I think the last thing is you're going to continue to see a huge amount of growth in embedded insurance and new distribution models. And those three trends are the ones I'd watch for in 2023.
Wow, that was really interesting and insightful, and I'm so curious what 2023 holds. And just to circle back a little bit, we picked those not only because we have followed them from almost day one, and had them on the show quite a few times, but it's also a representation of all the different countries we had on the show, like Alvin from Hong Kong, Harshet from Indonesia, Skye from Australia,
Right.
Cindy from Thailand, Rob, bolttech, and registered in Singapore, but also doing quite a lot in all of
Kazy
Asia.
in Japan.
Yeah, and Kazy in Japan, exactly, to get a bit of the flavor of all the different countries we are covering, and also all the different perspectives and regulations and flavors that we find in Asia. But we are actually not only talking to insurtechs and startups, we are also talking to insurance incumbents and thought leaders in that space. And I think we have a lot of good friends in that part too.
Well, I mean, whenever we want to get a really informed conversation about what's happening in the insurance insurtech space from an incumbent, we go back to Roopa Malhotra. I mean, if you go back to the first episode that she did with us, it was incredible. And she's been very generous and kind with her time. And that was no different here. It was great to have a conversation with her again. Frankly, it's great to have a conversation with her at any time.
Yeah, so let's hear from Roopa how she thinks insurtech and insurance innovation has evolved in the past years, and what is next from an incumbent perspective.
Well, yeah, I started 2017 when there was much less hype around digital. Definitely wasn't the thing that you live and breathe on LinkedIn for sure. But also, I think at that point in time, it was more around, hey, we've seen things in digital in other industries, and in insurance, really, there is no clarity. Yes, insurers have been doing direct to customers. But when it came on having a clear business strategy on what digital would mean for insurance, I would say there was a lot of ambiguity. It was just around, hey, there is something out there for insurance to make a big splash. It's one industry that's left for disruption. I think those were some of the big themes which still continue to be there. Like that's still after 5 years, it's still one of the things I said that as much as disruption as possible is not there. But I think at that point in time, it was a bit of a inertia around what is the possibility that's out there. And I think when I started at the product development role, when I made a pivot from doing NatCat pricing, at that point in time was, we don't know what product will fit. We don't know what to sell was kind of the question. And it all started from that. And I think in my initial years there was a lot of things around, hey, I've got this products, I'm not sure why is it not selling on digital. So I got into the role with I think initially was more of, how do we make this, I've got this, how do I make this sell? And I think very quickly it pivoted into, well, this is not going to sell the way it is, its shape and form. So I think that's kind of where I probably see the evolution in terms of the understanding in the industry, both I think across the legacy insurers. I think everyone have now come to a point where there is this acceptance that you can't push products just in a new channel and assuming it will work the way it has worked in some traditional channels.
Got it. And can you talk about when you first started or first developed this role, what was the internal reaction to, we need to do this thing?
I remember, I think there were two sets of thinking. One, where in the organization where they felt there was a need. I think I remember having the words around, we don't want someone coming from traditional underwriting just because we think they might be too constrained in the old ways of thinking. Not in a bad way, but it's just that they come from a more risk management point of view than a customer lens or a partner lens, because we're looking at it. And I think there was a bit of I still remember within my, the underwriters I worked with, they were a bit unclear around, oh no, but they had this fear that I will blow the book in terms of losses. And I think we had to kind of get to a point that, hey, it's going to be a test and learn. So the test and learn concept was again, it's been there, but also when it comes to an altogether new channel, you don't know how quickly there was some bad experiences of, just because there were no test and learn, it was just launched and left to it.
Right.
There was these two, teams around one, a bit of how do we actually bring a bit of innovation into our product development? And then there was the other camp, which was more around, while we get where we get the mandate around it, we are very scared this will actually lead to more losses, because we know this will lead to anti-selection. Only those people who know they have this risk is going to buy digitally, right? So there was this kind of two different camps on thinking on product.
Super interesting. Okay. And before I let you go, what kind of new things do you think are coming now that you've been at this for 5-6 years?
Yeah, I think one area, of course, there's been there's been a trend around embedding, and I think blockchain came into picture. We had a lot spoken a lot about IoT, and I think those concepts are going to remain. It's just we have to wait and watch. It's not the next 2-3 years where I do see, I think, a big role of I think there is a lot within AI ML that we as an insurance industry that we could utilize both, I think, on claim experience, because we talk about customer experience. I think there's this use of smarter use of big data and AI that actually can play a big role, has more impact, I feel, because it can lead to automation and personalization of experience. It can lead to better claims experience when I think about as a customer, because I don't have to go through a lot of process. But when I think from an insurance company point of view, it leads to a lot of efficiency as well. And kind of where we are going in terms of macro level economics as well, I feel is a real good win-win. And I think there is the other one I think I'll probably feel is there is, I'll not go into meta, because I think metaverse is something, I don't think so. It's not a 2 or 3 year trend. It's something we'll have to test. It's more dependent on how the evolution of this whole concept evolves rather than insurance industry driving it. I do feel concept of health tech, ESG has a role to play. I think those are some of the meaningful things that will actually drive meaningful impact in terms of where we feel there is a need for penetration of insurance, etc. So yeah, I feel if I kind of put that into order, big data, AI, ML, I think is real, very tangible in terms of its impact, both customer experience and efficiency. Then I feel the health tech, there is a lot to be done, and there's a lot that actually offers both to customers and insurance. And ESG again is something I would probably put in the same bucket. And then you've got more far-fetched in terms of technology that needs more evolution before it actually has more impact as well. So again, and these are more, you can even put them into short, medium, long term.